Hey guys, this is Taylor Stratton and welcome back to Stratton Life.
No, I'm not doing it. Okay.
Today's video is going to be a story time about my labor and delivery with this one. And the hubby's in the video because he has to tell part of the story because I don't remember half of my labor. We'll get into that later. So I have like a timeline on my phone because I don't remember like all the times at the top of my head. On September 12th was when I started having contractions, which was a Wednesday, so it was during the week. So this one had to go to work at 5 in the morning. So around 4 in the morning, I started feeling light cramps, kind of like beginning period cramps. And so it was kind of normal. And plus, like in my head, I guess I thought that I was having a stomach ache. So I just kept going, I kept going back to sleep. I kept waking up, I want to say like every 15 minutes or so. At around 4:45 was when I was like, I kind of snapped out of it and stopped going back to sleep. I was like, maybe I'm like having contractions. I was like, I'm just gonna wait till this one wakes up so I didn't have to just like wake him up dead out of sleep because he was gonna get up in like 10-15 minutes anyway. So I remember his alarm clock went off and he rolled over and he like looked at me kind of like shocked that I was awake. I was like, hey babe, I think I'm in labor. What did you think? Like, what was your first like thought when I said I was going into labor?
Oh shit.
Then he like got up and he was like, okay, I'm gonna call or message my sergeant and say I'm not going into PT. And I was like, no babe, they're not gonna accept me like in the hospital because I'm not having like regular contractions like within 2 to 3 minutes, and I'm sure I'm not dilated to like 3-4 centimeters to even like accept me into the labor and delivery for active labor. So I was like, just go to PT. I'm gonna, you know, get a shower, get ready to go to the hospital. They weren't bad enough to where I had to like stop at this point. Like I could just like, you know, get ready through the pain. And this one went to PT. You wanna give your story about when you went to work, like your side of that?
So I'm driving to work the whole time. I'm like having a panic attack, sweating and everything. I'm like, oh my God. And I get on base. Every red light, I was stopping, checking my phone, seeing what she was saying, checking up, you know, because I'm freaking out. And I was at that last stoplight, about to turn into my PT field. And there's a red light, so I go down, check my phone, and I'll let her explain what it is more, but she said that, you know, something happened to where basically she was in labor, confirmed that she was in labor. And I'm looking at my phone like in total shock, like this is actually happening. And then I see a green light like flash out of the corner of my eye. And in my head I'm thinking, oh, the light's green, I gotta go. So I'm still looking at my phone, let my foot off the brake, hit the gas, and then look up, and I'm halfway in the intersection and it's a red light. And I go straight through a red light. Thank God nobody was coming because I would have been hit.
Oh my God.
And I went right through it, and then I started freaking out because that just happened. And I got to the PT field. I'm texting my sergeant like, hey, this is what's going on, my wife's in labor, da da da. And then I find his car. I run over to him like, hey, she's literally in labor, she just texted me this. And he's like, all right, go, I got you, you're good, don't have to go to PT. And then, yeah, went back home.
So the part he was talking about was as I was getting ready, I had to go to the bathroom. I lost my mucus plug. Little TMI, we came back home and I just got out of the shower and he was like, okay, what can I do to help you? And so I gave him the list, and I remember him like getting the list, looking at it, going and running to get the item that he needed, come back, and he would put the list against the wall and then just like start crossing all the items out, just like running back and forth. I lost my mucus plug at around 6 a.m. And when the contraction started at 4. So we got to the hospital at around 8 in the morning. So we go up to the desk. I already filled out a bunch of paperwork to basically just like walk up to labor and delivery. They're like, okay, yeah, like we'll not admit you, but we'll see you to check for like how dilated you are. Oh,
and right when that happened, right, because I walked up to the desk first and told them, right when that happened, they handed me a wheelchair and I put her in a wheelchair like a little old lady.
Wheeled me up, they checked me, and at this point I was 1 centimeter dilated, and the woman was like, oh, is this your first pregnancy? I was like, yeah, it is. and they're like, okay, well, you know, you're only 1 centimeter, it'll probably take you, she said like a week, right?
She said it could take up to a week.
Yeah, she's like, it'll take up to maybe a week until like you're dilated to where we can admit you, you know, just go home, take Tylenol, it's probably Braxton Hicks. So at this point, I barely slept, so I was like, I'm gonna try to go to sleep. So then he's like, yeah, I'm gonna take a nap too, since I didn't have to go to PT and I'm not going to work for a little bit. So then we lay down to take a nap. He knocks out like so fast, and I'm sitting there like, and I go to bed, and I'll stay asleep for like a minute, and then I'll wake up with a contraction. At this point, the contractions are getting a lot worse, and in my head, I'm trying to like talk myself into that it's not getting worse. I took Tylenol, and nothing was working. It just kept like, the pain started getting worse and worse. And so he was asleep, and I was getting really upset that I couldn't go to sleep. And he gets up and he goes in the room to play video games, just I guess to take his mind off of like that maybe I was in labor, I don't know. And after that, I was like, okay, I'm gonna try to go back to bed. So I told him, and he's like, okay, like I'll come and check on you, or like call me if you need me, because he was right across the hall. So I try to go back to bed, and again I keep waking up, and I was like, literally forget it, like I'm done. Go to get a bath because we had a shower and a tub, like a big, what is it called? Garden tub?
Yeah, garden sized tub.
So we had a garden sized tub, and so I went in there and I filled it up and stuff, and me and my dog was there like with me the whole time. She was like laying her head on the tub. It was really cute. So I was just enjoying my time with her, but I was like trying to breathe through the pain. And I remember like I started craving, was it cereal or was it salad? I'm pretty sure it was salad.
Yeah, it was salad.
Yeah, so I started craving salad all random, and so I called for him and I was like, babe, can you go get me a salad? So he comes up with a salad. So then after that, I just kept going back and forth from the tub to the shower because I liked the water running on me, but I also liked sitting in the water. So I kept going back and forth, and it progressively again started getting like worse and worse. And me, I was just like, this isn't happening because they're not gonna accept me. Like I was listening to the woman like, oh, it'll take a week, like I just need to rest. And so then I went back to the bed, and I was just laying there in my towel, and he comes in. And I was in so much pain that I was holding the blanket, and I was like, you know, like squeezing my eyeballs shut, and I was just like moaning, I guess, in agony from it hurting so much. And he came into the room and he was like, babe, you're like really hurting. I'm gonna call labor and delivery to see like what they want us to do. And I was like, no, babe, like I'm still probably like 1 centimeter dilated. Don't call, they're not gonna accept me. And so he called anyway. He was like, yeah, they think that you're in active labor. They told us to come back in. So we get to the hospital. I think it was the same woman that saw me, right? That checked me for dilation. And I was like, man, I'm gonna feel so stupid if I walk in right now and I'm like 1 centimeter dilated, because she already told me it could take a week. This was at around 5:30 or so that we went back in, but they checked me and I was 4 centimeters dilated. So they're like, okay, yeah, you're in labor now, we're gonna admit you. They were like, do you want an epidural, like while we get after we get your room set up and everything? And I was like, no, I really want to wait for an epidural till like the last moment, because I really wanted to try having my full like labor and delivery without an epidural. And they're like, well, if you're really in this much pain, you should get an epidural now, because we can't give it to you after like 6-7 centimeters, or like when you're in so much pain that you can't sit still, because you have to sit still when the needle's in your back, or you could do a lot of damage to your body or become paralyzed. So I was like, yeah, you know what, like by the time my room's ready, I'll probably be like a couple more centimeters dilated, so yeah, like let's go ahead and do the epidural. We get into my room, set me up to get the epidural, and I'm terrified of needles at this point, so I don't look at it. I make sure that he could stay in the room. Instead of having me sit up and lean over, as you see in most labor and delivery vlogs, they had me lay on my left side, and so I was laying there, and they had me kind of like hunch over. I thought it was gonna be way worse, honestly, but like the contractions masked most of like the pain. 10 minutes later, I didn't feel anything. And after that, you and I kind of just hung out. I remember I started getting nauseous, and so they gave me a nausea pill, and I kind of got sick a little bit, but it was like very, very little, but they gave me the nausea meds. So I had the epidural at this point and the nausea meds. And then they started like checking me for dilation. At 8 p.m., still on the 12th, I was 5 centimeters dilated, and at 11:30, again on the 12th, I was 7 centimeters dilated. The nurse kept coming in, and she kept having me roll from my right to my left to my right, and having a little peanut ball in between my legs, to try to get me to like my water to break or for me to dilate faster. I guess I started running a fever at one point, so they kept putting ice packs all around my body. My epidural started wearing off, so I started pressing the button for them to give me more of the epidural. I guess at one point I fell asleep a little bit. The medicine started wearing off again, so I clicked again for the epidural. And then after that, it wore off again. I started feeling like all of the pain, and I kept clicking the button and nothing was happening. So at that point, I was like, you know what, I'm in a lot of pain, like, can I have another epidural? So they had me roll over again, and they didn't give me like a full-blown other like epidural with the needle, but they put more like medicine in the little tube so I could keep clicking it if I wanted to. Then after that, I still was like tossing and turning on the peanut, and I had the ice packs around me, and I started shaking. And at this point, they thought I was having an anxiety attack, which this is controversial, but I personally know that I wasn't having an anxiety attack because I didn't feel like I was having one. I was super excited. I wasn't nervous at all. I was just shaking. I did not know at the time pregnancy shakes were a thing, okay? I did not know that the epidural or the medicine that they give you makes you have pregnancy shakes. So I was believing what they were telling me, that I was having an anxiety attack, but I didn't feel like I was having one. So they asked me what helped with my anxiety, and so I told them my dog, who's my ESA, I was like, her and my husband helped me. And they're like, okay, so they told him to go get my dog. And I was like, no, like, don't do that. Bless you. Bless you. I was like, no, don't do that. Like, I love her to death, but she loves everyone, and she'll come in and try to like lick everyone, and she'll jump on you because she gets so excited. So I was like, no, don't do that. So they're like, okay, well, your doctor said that we can't give you anxiety medicine, but she gave you Benadryl. So I took the Benadryl. Now I'm up to one epidural with me clicking the things. I had nausea medicine, I had another full-blown epidural, and then I had Benadryl. A few minutes later, the nurse came back in and was like, your fever hasn't gone down, you still are shaking, your doctor said that we can give you your anxiety medicine now. So they gave me an anxiety med. So I had so many medications in me, and after that, I remember I started falling asleep. Before I like fell asleep, I remember the woman checked me one last time, and she was like, my shift's about to be over, I just want to see if your water broke. Because obviously I couldn't feel if my water broke or anything because I couldn't feel anything down there. So she actually decided to pop my water while she was like checking my cervix to see if I was dilated. And so my water ended up breaking, so they kept having to like pick me up to change the pad under me. Because I had a full-blown another epidural, I couldn't like help her. So he had to like keep picking me up at one point for them to change the pad underneath me. And after that, I basically like fell asleep. And I remember them coming in with more people than just one nurse, and them checking and saying I was 9 centimeters dilated. And this was at 6 on September 13th, so the day that I had her. And then I fell back asleep immediately, and then I remember like vaguely opening my eyes and hearing them like, oh, you're a 10. And that was at 8 a.m. on the 13th. They basically told me to like start pushing. Remember, I was like completely knocked out. I was like, I couldn't understand anything they were saying. But I remember vaguely them saying, okay, like put your legs up, and I couldn't put my legs up. So I remember feeling them like put my legs up on the little like holster things. And I don't remember anything really from here, so you can take over.
Yeah, she was completely out of it. They had to tell her a couple times, hey, we're gonna start pushing, hey, we're gonna start pushing. And then they had to tell me, hey, you're gonna have to help us to get her set up. And I was like, okay. I put one of her legs up on the straddle things.
Oh,
the nurse put the other one up. Then we were like, okay, we're gonna start pushing. And then after her, you know, first push, I think because it happened so quickly that we started pushing.
Oh, I remember this part.
Or that she started pushing. I was like just in complete shock. I was like freaking out and whatnot, and I had stood up so fast to go help her and whatnot. Right after that first push, I like got super lightheaded, super woozy, super nauseous. I was like, ooh, I'm gonna sit down for a second in between the push, and I like, you know, drank water. And then after that one time, you know, I was fine. Just after every push, I would go over, drink water real quick, come back.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Fine.
I remember the nurse telling him, you look white, you should go sit down. But it didn't register in my mind, like, me thinking if he would like leave me, it would make me nervous, but I was so like out of it, I didn't even register it. Like, I barely remember that part.
And then in between each, you know, contraction, she would, push, she would pass back out because she was so drugged up.
Yeah.
So what I would have to do is I would have to grab her head, and when it was time to push, be like, okay babe, wake up, time to push. And then I would have to like crunch her because they needed her to like crunch over to
like
push more.
Yeah.
And then, you know, I was like cheering her on, saying, okay babe, go push, you got this, da da da. I was holding her hand in one hand. Well, actually no, I started holding her hand, and then they were like, you're gonna have to pull her leg to her chest. Well, like to the side and to her chest to help her pull up.
I didn't know you did that.
And so I was like, had her leg and her head, and then I was like making her do a crunch to get her to push because she was so out of it that she was like, when I'd wake her up to push, she would like try to push, but you know, like when your foot's asleep, you can't move it. So she couldn't feel anything. So she wasn't able to really push all that much.
Yeah, I didn't even open my eyes when I pushed. Like, I just remember hearing like them speaking. I remember only a few times me actually waking up and him hearing, like, me hearing him being like, okay babe, you got this, like you're doing so good, I love you, like push, push. But then after that, I didn't really like fully wake up in the middle of me pushing. I just kept remember them saying like, go, 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 and me not even opening my eyes or registering really what was happening.
Yeah, and then she started pushing to where we could see her Hazel's head and whatnot, and then, you know, they started pulling her out and everything, and then Hazel finally popped on out.
Did you look, like when they saw the head like pop out, did they ask you if you wanted to look to see your head or no?
No, they didn't ask. I just, you know, looked.
Oh. Oh, you did?
Yeah.
Oh.
I stayed like right here, and like you were under here, and so I could see the head pushing out, but I couldn't see the rest of it.
Oh. Did it gross you out?
No,
was it really like...
I didn't want to see the rest of it. I just stayed on the head.
But the part, did you like, the part that you did see, did it gross you out?
It was different.
I feel like it would gross me out personally. I don't think I could be in like anyone's room while they were giving birth. I'd feel queasy.
But then they pulled Hazel on out, and they had to like tap her butt and whatnot a little bit to get her
to cry.
Like to cry, and then she just started crying, and then I broke down a little bit right when that happened. Right when she started crying, I was kissing Taylor's forehead and whatnot. And
I don't remember any of that.
And then they had, you know, cleaned her all up and whatnot a little bit right there. And then they were like, oh, do you want to cut the umbilical cord? And then, you know, I cut it, and then they took her over and cleaned her up even more. And then the doctor was working on, you know, the rest of what Taylor had to get done.
Why am I getting emotional right now that I don't remember this? Continue.
Like pulling out the placenta and whatnot, so the doctor finished that. And then after Hazel was all cleaned up, they called me over and asked if I wanted to change her first diaper. So I went over there and put it on her little tiny diaper. It was so small compared to what she wears now.
Yeah.
And I put on her diaper, and you know, they before that they had weighed her and did all that, put her on the scale, and yep.
Yeah, I don't remember any of that, and it like really bothers me to where I get emotional, because like I always thought that I was gonna like be conscious and aware of my whole labor, but it, like that never happened because I was so drugged up. And if I could go back now, I wouldn't accept any of the medications, maybe besides the epidural, because it really bothers me. I have pictures and videos of him cutting the umbilical cord with Hazel like on me, and then doing skin to skin like as soon as she was born, and like taking pictures and my eyes being open, but I don't remember any of those pictures. Like I just woke up basically and they were on my phone. I vaguely remember him saying he had to go to work because he had to turn in your leave packet, right?
Yeah, this was after her mom had showed up.
Yeah, no one was in the labor and delivery room except him and nurses and the doctors and stuff, because we're in Texas and our family's in Arizona, and my mom was the only one that was coming up. So like we called all of our family members to let them know that I was in labor, and my mom was like, okay, I'm coming up tomorrow, because she just got out of work and she didn't want to drive the 4 hours because she was so tired. So we're like, yeah, just wait until morning. So she called her work, told them that I was in labor and that she wouldn't be going to work the next day. So she basically woke up early and drove. She got there a little while after I gave birth to her. And I gave birth September 13th at 9:11 a.m. So I was pushing for a little over an hour, which again, I didn't even know that. Like when they told me I was pushing for like an hour, I was like, really? Because I was literally knocked out like the whole time. But she was 7 pounds and she was 20 inches long. But yeah, so then my mom came. Continue, babe.
Then her mom was there, and you know, we were helping her do little stuff. I think we took you to the restroom once before I had left.
Yeah, I remember my mom, like I remember them like picking me up to help me walk over to the bathroom to help me me clean up and stuff, because I couldn't feel my legs, so I needed help walking. And I remember it being the nurse and my mom, but I don't remember like my mom walking into the room, like her greeting me, nothing. I don't remember any of that. I just remember like being asleep, and then I remember like being in the bathroom and my mom helping me, which like if I was coherent, I would have thought was really weird, but because I was so out of it, I was just like, oh, okay, like going with the flow. And then I don't remember him leaving or anything after that. Sorry, continue.
Yeah, and then my sergeant continuously was like checking up on me because he needed my leave packet for me to take leave for paternity leave, so I could stay with them for, at the time it was only 10 days, but later on they put something out that dads now get 21 days, so I got to take those 11 days
like months after, but yeah, it was still nice.
It was a couple months after she was born, so I got to take the extra 11 days. But he kept messaging me and calling me, and he even called during her, when she was pushing.
Did
and
he?
I was so mad.
Didn't know that.
I was so mad that he was calling, and like in between one of the pushes, I like looked at my phone, texted him real quick. My wife is literally in the middle of pushing, and just threw the phone onto the couch and left it.
He had to message him back though, otherwise like he can get in serious trouble.
I was still missing work without leave, which,
yeah.
They covered me for that day, but they need updates if you're not on leave on what's going on. But
yeah.
It was just still annoying.
Inconsiderate.
That he kept calling, and I was like, she's in the middle of pushing my daughter out, and you're calling me right now. Like, just wait, and I will get back to you when I have time. Yeah. Like, the last thing on my mind right now was the military, and the military doesn't ever understand that there was more important things than the freaking military. So yeah, I had to go into work. I drove there probably faster than I should have, but whatever. I drove there, turned my stuff in, and I'm walking in, and I'm in regular clothing. Everyone else is in uniform. And people were like saying, oh, are you on leave, what's going on and whatnot. I'm like, my daughter was just born, and I was really upset that I had to be there instead of with them, because my daughter had just been born like 2-3 hours ago, and I'm already missing a part of her life right now. And I was so mad that the Army was already pulling me away from that. So I got there, I turned my stuff in, and I was like, all right, I'm leaving. So I left, came back, and
I was still asleep.
No, actually, right when I got back, you were coming out of the restroom again.
Oh, that fast? Oh, I didn't know that.
What do you mean that fast?
Like, I didn't know you went to work and came back that fast.
No. I had went to work, and your mom had taken you to the restroom again.
Oh.
For a second time.
Oh.
And she was walking out of the restroom right as I had walked in.
I don't remember that.
And then she had fallen asleep for a while, so I was holding Hazel, she was holding Hazel. The nurses were coming in, checking and doing stuff.
I was holding Hazel asleep?
No, your mom.
Oh.
Her mom was holding Hazel. And after she had slept for those 6 hours, she was a lot more aware after those 6 hours. And then
I was like, give me my baby.
They had brought some food for her. She was holding Hazel.
I had Whataburger.
Yeah. Her mom, after we had eaten and whatnot, went and
it was so nice.
Stayed at our house, cleaned up, took care of our animals. And then
I loved having that time where it was just us when I was fully aware, because I was like, give me my baby, like I want to see her and stuff, and I was like playing with her and she was sleeping in my arms and I was like getting all the like the baby cuddles. But I liked how it was just like late at night, it was just him, me, and her, because we finally got to have that like family time. It was really nice.
And then I laid in the bed with her for a little bit. We were holding Hazel. The TV, we were watching TV a little bit, and then when she started getting tired again, I swaddled Hazel because I had a baby sister. So I remember my baby sister, the only way she would sleep was being swaddled really tight. So I swaddled her up tight. I was walking around, rocking her, whatnot. I was able to lay her down and she went to sleep. And then I was letting her sleep, so I was checking on her, watching her, whatnot. And then
such a good dad.
I can't remember if you woke up and then I fell asleep, or she had I think I got Hazel to go to sleep for a while, and then I went and laid down and I fell asleep.
And the nurse came in.
Yeah, and then the nurse came in and took her for like, what, 2 hours?
Well, they kept coming in like every hour, hour and a half to 2 hours, saying that I had to feed her. At one point, they gave me a manual pump because, like, I guess since she was having trouble latching, I like pumped out like the colostrum and put it in a little syringe and fed it to her that way. But they kept waking me up so I could feed her, kind of getting me in like a routine. After I fed her, they were like, oh, do you want us to take her for you so you can get some sleep? Even though she wasn't like waking up and crying, I was like, yeah, sure, if you want. So they took her for like, yeah, I guess 2 hours, and they came back and woke me up to feed her again.
Yeah, so she got some sleep and I got some sleep. And then I remember they brought her back in and Taylor was taking care of her and still let me sleep.
The next day after we woke up, they did her hearing test and they were kind of just like, oh yeah, like you're good to go. They checked her, they checked me, so that she was really good and healthy. I was good and healthy, like no complications at all. That was one thing I was very thankful for, no complications. I did have a 1st-degree tear. I had to get like 2 stitches. I wasn't in any pain, it was just hard to sit. Yeah, it was painful to it was painful to like stand up and sit down, and so he helped me a lot with that. And he was just it was so nice having a really nice, amazing husband there to like help me with everything that I needed help with. Like, you were so attentive to all of my needs and like helping me with her, and like it was just so nice. And then we had our photographer come in and take fresh 48-hour pictures, and then after that we kind of just like went through paperwork, signed out of the hospital, and he loaded everything up in the car because obviously I couldn't. I stayed with her in the room. They wheeled me down to the car. They put her in the car seat, made sure that was all good because obviously we couldn't leave without them checking. And then I remember we had to drive back onto base. Like, we didn't even get to go home yet.
Because I had to drop off her release papers, because that was like to finalize the leave packet or whatever. So I had to drop off a copy of her release papers. So Hazel's first place after the hospital was right back to the freaking army. Yeah, Fort Bliss. And then we went home. That was basically the labor and delivery story.
Yeah, the only thing I regret about it is the taking so many medication, because you have this idea in your head, or like this birth plan in your head of how you want things to go or how things should go, and of course nothing happens planned. So like, I don't remember anything, because like you always think in your head like, oh, you're gonna deliver a baby and they're gonna do skin to skin, and you're gonna have like this beautiful moment where your husband comes up and like you said, like kiss my head, and like me holding Hazel and like me crying and having pictures taken of us. But like, that didn't happen. So I get super, super, super emotional about it. But I mean, all I really care about is that, you know, she was born healthy, so we're very blessed with that. But yeah, so now she's here. She's 10 months old. We're so sad that she's getting older and growing so fast. Like, a few days ago I started doing little pigtails in her hair. She looks like a little bug. Huh, you look like a little bug.
Oh, but I want to backtrack.
Oh, okay.
I want to go back to the night before she was going into labor. Well, before she started having contractions on the 12th. On the 11th, she was like, you know, getting to the end of her 9 months, and she really wanted to, you know, go into labor. So I turned into like a drill sergeant and We went walking around the whole neighborhood. I made her do all these different kinds of exercises and lunges and jumping jack, all these exercises.
And you came home on lunch and you were like, no, in the morning when I woke up, you were like, go up and down the stairs.
Oh yeah, I said
we had a 2-story.
Go up and down the stairs 20 times.
Yeah, and he was like, by lunch, you need to have them done or whatever. And I was like, okay. And then he comes home on lunch, he's like, you got them done? Or like, did you do them? And I was like, yeah. And then he came home for dinner and like we were walking back. He was really good because I was like, oh my God, my back hurts. Like I can't do this anymore. Like what's a natural way to like help? And everyone was like, oh, go walk, go walk. So he literally was like, okay, get up, we're going to walk. So yeah, people said to walk and do something else. And TMI, but we did something else. And yeah, and then she came the next day, so I guess it worked, right? But yeah, you were really helpful and supportive in trying to jumpstart my labor. But I had her when I was 38 weeks and 4 days, so. She came at the right time. She was healthy and perfect and stuff like that.
I love to say that I put her in her and I brought her out of her.
Bless you. Yeah, he says it all the time. But throughout my whole pregnancy and my labor and delivery and afterwards and even now and I know in the future, he's been super helpful. He's always been there. He's a really good dad. He hates when I get gushy, but yeah, this is his little girl. But yeah, now she's 10 months. Say hi. Hi. Can you say hi?
Oh, with her hand in her mouth.
Look at her little pigtails, little bug. But yeah, she has grown a lot now. She's like 20 pounds, 25 inches long. She's so big. She's starting to crawl. She says mama, dada, hi, yeah. She copies a lot of things. She's learning really fast.
Yay!
Good clap.
Yay! No.
Yeah, she claps. She like feeds herself now and she like claps afterwards because she gets excited. But yeah, she's grown a lot since the labor and delivery, but yeah, this is our little baby, and as long as she was born healthy and I was good, that's all that mattered. And obviously I had a supportive husband, so yeah, it was really well. And now I know for next time not to take any medication for our next child. Thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, hit that bell notification down below so you get notified every time I upload. Thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you in our next video. Bye guys.